Good morning, how are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you doing?
I'm on the
Right.
speaking today. Yes,
Is anyone else there?
Sandy's here.
Oh, okay.
Just, oh, somebody else just popped in.
Okay.
Normal.
Okay, you can see this, but I can. Uh, all right. Is it 11? Oh, shoot. Forgot to put the trainers on. All right. All right, we're gonna get this party started. So, like I said on the last training, one of my favorite books of all time is Who Moved My Cheese? And I think that every real estate agent should have this book and should read it probably no less than 20 times. So I found a summary of the book online, and that's what we're gonna look at right now. I think it is very, very, very apropos to everything that's going on in the real estate market right now. And just to kind of give you perspective, like, since I started in real estate, I feel like my cheese has moved 4 times. And it's being moved right now. So with that being said, let's check out this video and then we'll talk about it after it's over.
Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson, MD. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. Robert Burns. Life doesn't always turn out the way we think it will. When change happens, a lot of us have a natural tendency to resist that change. Why? Simply put, we are afraid of change. Change represents the unknown, which challenges our sense of safety and security. This is a very simple story about change. It's about seeing change, anticipating change, and adapting to change. Now, that sounds incredibly boring, but luckily the author, Spencer Johnson, has put a cool little twist on a boring topic and has interwoven the lessons of change into the story of 4 characters: 2 mice named Sniff and Scurry, and 2 little people who are the same size as mice named Hem and Haw. These 4 characters represent parts of us. They represent the simple and complex within each of us. As Spencer put it, sometimes we may act like Sniff who sniffs out change early, or Scurry who scurries into action, or Hem, who denies and resists change as he fears it will lead to something worse, or Ha, who learns to adapt in time when he sees changing can lead to something better. The four characters leave their homes in the morning and search around the maze day in and day out, searching for cheese. The cheese is a metaphor for what we want to have in life, whether that be a relationship, a career, freedom, health, a big house, and so on. The cheese represents what it is in our lives that makes us happy. It's the thing that we're always chasing. The maze represents where we spend most of our time looking for that so-called cheese, whether it be in the relationships of your life, in an organization, or in the community you live in. Let's get into the story. Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw got up early each morning, put on their running shoes, and ran around the maze looking for their favorite cheese. The mice used a trial and error method to find their cheese. One would sniff and the other would scurry around. The little people used their more sophisticated brains to find the cheese. Eventually, they both found an enormous amount of cheese at Cheese Station C. All was good. They all went back to Cheese Station C every morning, got fat on cheese, and returned home every night. This went on for a while. As time went on, Sniff and Scurry continued to wake up bright and early every morning. They scurried over to the cheese station, sniffed around to see if anything had changed, and then enjoyed their cheese throughout the day. Hem and Haw, on the other hand, started waking up later each morning and would walk over to the cheese station, expecting their cheese to be there. They had so much cheese at Cheese Station C that they felt confident it would continue to be there each morning. They had become a bit arrogant in their success of finding the cheese, and a bit too comfortable. As you can imagine, one day the cheese was all gone. When the mice arrived early that morning, they were not surprised. They had noticed that their cheese supply was getting less and less as they did their morning inspections. They simply put their running shoes back on and set out into the maze looking for new cheese. They didn't complicate the issue. The problem and the solution were simple. No more cheese? Go find new cheese. As the author stated, the situation at Cheese Station C had changed, so Sniff and Scurry decided to change. When Hem and Haw arrived later that day, they were shocked. Their whole world had been turned upside down. They weren't aware of the changes occurring in their environment and assumed the cheese would always be there. Hem ranted and raved. "What? No cheese? No cheese? Who moved my cheese?" He hollered for a while and finally said, "It's not fair." Haw was just as stunned, but he didn't rant and rave. He just stood there in shock and disbelief. He couldn't believe it and just tuned it all out. They went home that night hoping it would be back the next day, but as you can imagine, it wasn't there. The cheese was gone and it wasn't coming back. Hem began blaming others, stating, "We are entitled to our cheese. Why did they do this to me? What's really going on here?" Sniff and Scurry had been on the move, and had already found new cheese at Cheese Station N. Hem and Haw faced a lot of the same emotions that many of us face when change slaps us in the face. They didn't want to face the facts. They were in denial. They didn't want to go back into the maze and look for new cheese because that meant uncertainty, getting lost, and possibly making a fool of themselves. The fear of failure had taken grip. They returned back to the empty Cheese Station C every day simply because it was familiar to them. It was their comfort zone. Haw began to come to his senses. He realized the error of his ways and began laughing when he realized what fear was doing to him. Haw tried to convince Hem to leave the station with him in search of new cheese, but Hem didn't want to listen. Haw contemplated his fears and asked himself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Haw built up some courage, started to believe that he could find new cheese, envisioned himself finding new cheese, and then set off into the dark maze alone and uncertain of what's to come. Although the journey into the unknown was tough at first, that sense of adventure began to energize him. He wished he had set out in search for new cheese earlier and said to himself, better late than never. By this point in the story, Haw had already learned some valuable lessons. Expect change. Look for signs that change is coming. Or in the words of Spencer Johnson, smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old. And finally, adapt to change quickly. While on his new cheese quest, he continued to reflect on why he didn't leave sooner. He realized that his fears were holding him back. As Spencer stated so perfectly in the book, what you are afraid of is never as bad as what you imagine. The fear you build up in your mind is worse than the situation that actually exists. Fear had been clouding his mind. He lived in a state of fear and focused on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. He finally understood that you have two choices. You can believe that change will harm you, in which case you'll resist it, or you can believe that change will help you, in which case you'll embrace the change. As he searched the maze, he realized he was happy when he wasn't being run by his fears. Sure, some fear is natural and should be taken seriously since it can keep you out of real danger. But he knew that most of his fears were irrational and stopping him from making the changes he needed to. Letting go and trusting in what lay ahead, even though he didn't know what it was, and not letting fear stop him from his quest, was what nourished his soul and gave him strength. He realized that change could lead to something better. As he continued to look for new cheese, he continued learning some key lessons. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese. Movement in a new direction helps you find new cheese. Imagine yourself enjoying your new cheese leads you to it. It is safer to search in the maze than remain in a cheeseless situation. When you see that you can find and enjoy new cheese, you change course. Old beliefs do not lead to new cheese. Noticing small changes early helps you adapt to the bigger changes that are to come. Ha attempted to go back and show Hem the new lessons he had learned, but Hem was still stuck in his old ways. Hem wanted his old cheese back and wasn't willing to change. Ha finally gave up and realized that Hem would have to find his own way in order to move beyond his comfort zone and face his fears. No one else could do it for him. Ha had come to the realization that the biggest inhibitor to change lies within yourself, and that nothing gets better until you change. See, the mice kept things simple. They didn't overcomplicate. They didn't overanalyze. They changed as the situation changed. The little people made these simple things quite complicated with their complex brains, belief systems, and human emotions. The little people are obviously smarter than the mice, but they're directing their energies in the wrong direction. Imagine if they had the right attitudes and beliefs. Imagine if they used their amazing brains to envision something better, to reflect on the mistakes of the past and use them when making plans for the future, to keep things simple and flexible, and to realize that you don't need to overcomplicate things or confuse yourself with fear-based beliefs. Wow, they would be unstoppable. At one point in the story, the author stated that Ha laughed and realized that he had started to change as soon as he had learned to laugh at himself and at what he had been doing wrong. He realized the fastest way to change is to laugh at your own folly. Then you can let go and quickly move on. Ha continued on his journey day in and day out. He finally understood that breaking out of your comfort zone and enjoying the journey for new cheese is rewarding in and of itself. Actually, finding the new cheese is just an additional bonus. Finally, Ha stumbled upon Cheese Station N, where Sniff and Scurry were hanging out enjoying their cheese. They were still ready for change, as was Ha. They kept a good eye on things, and Ha continued to venture out into the maze every now and then to see if anything had changed. He was aware and ready to adapt at a moment's notice. One day, Ha heard a noise outside of Cheese Station N. It sounded like someone else was coming. Could it be Hem, he thought? He said a little prayer and looked around the corner to see. The end. Did Hem show up, or was it someone else? That's for you to decide. Can the Hems of the world, or in ourselves, change their ways in their own time? I think so. It's a great little story with lots of great lessons. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, all change isn't good. We shouldn't just mindlessly conform to the needless changes forced on us by others. Great point, and in the foreword, Dr. Ken Blanchard addresses this. He says, everyone knows that not all change is good or even necessary, but in a world that is continually changing, it is to our advantage to learn how to adapt and enjoy something better. It is not what is in the story of Who Moved My Cheese, but how you interpret it and apply it to your own situation that gives it value. Which character will you choose to be? Do you like to sniff things out and seek out opportunities? Do you like to jump into action like Scurry? Or are you more like Ha, who resists change initially, but remains open-minded enough to adapt before it's too late? On a personal note, the Ha's can be valuable because they do keep things a bit grounded. A world of only sniffs and scurries may change too rapidly and simply fall apart. The Ha's do provide a bit of stability. Or do you want to be like Hem? Poor Hem, the anchor who isn't willing to change the way things are done. He's in his comfort zone and often says things like, "That's the way it's always been done around here." The Hems of the world are either too comfortable where they are, or they're too scared to change. They don't realize that the way things are done may have to change in order to survive and thrive. The Hems often feel like victims when their cheese, which they're somehow entitled to, is taken away from them. They whine and complain and resist moving on. Think about the different people in your life, in your relationships, work life, communities, and so on. Who are the hems, haws, scurries, and sniffs? How can this story help you deal with them better? How can these lessons help them? Change is difficult for people. It makes people afraid, so keep that in mind when guiding and helping people through the path of change. Ultimately, they have to do it themselves, but you can certainly show them the way. This is a very short book with lots of great lessons, so please, if you don't have a copy, go grab one. Read it and give it to a friend or a family member. It just may change their outlook on life. As Benjamin Franklin stated, change is the only constant in life. One's ability to adapt to those changes will determine your success in life. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please.
Nice. So I'd be curious on whoever's on this call, I know Tracy's on here, is which character do you think you are? I know who I am. I'm Scurry. I'm the one that's always trying to move fast and do things quickly because I have a theory behind that. But if you're interested in sharing on what character you think you are, I'd be interested to see your thoughts. What I would like to point out is that I just drew up a map here on the board here of the different market changes that have happened in the last 20 years, which just made me feel super old. So in 2004, that's probably the first time my cheese was ever moved, because I went from being a police officer in Las Vegas to in Los Angeles, to where I didn't really know anybody, and interest rates were 7.25%. And they just dropped from there to where we get to 2020 and pandemic, to where it's 2.99% right here, which is a little insane. And Tracy, you can't text me while I'm doing this. So that's when my cheese first moved, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was trying to figure it out, but then I figured it out. And from 2004 to 2008, my business was amazing. But then in 2008, that's when the market crashed. That's when the banks foreclosed and all that craziness happened. So that was the first change. So I figured out how to deal with that. And then in 2012 was when short sales became probably prominent in the market. My cheese moved again there because I knew how short sales worked. I understood short sales. I did one short sale and I hated it with the white hot passion of the sun because of the amount of dealing with the banks, the amount of paperwork, the amount of negotiation, the time. It was just insane. So I figured it was more profitable for me to hire somebody to do the short sale for me. And I know Tracy has done that, because now that person that Tracy worked with is RTC. But I hired a different company and they were great. I got a lot of business from short sales. But then in 2016, that's when the market really started to turn back around. That's when prices started to go up, the short sales and the REOs were starting to fizzle out. And then I started doing something different there. In 2020, the pandemic happened, and that's when everybody freaked out and we didn't know what happened with business. And again, the cheese moved, and then things got amazing between 2020 and 2023. And then 2023 happened, and now I'd say everybody's cheese moved. To the point to where there are people literally retiring, getting out of the business, not knowing what to do, trying all of these different things. So, you know, between here, online leads were amazing. I did a letter campaign between here and here, which was amazing. And then there was just different iterations of things that I moved too quickly, because I was afraid that if I did not move quickly, that I was going to get caught with some of the people that are out there that just get out of the business. So just in 2004, when I first started, there was agents, and the market was not bad. It was a good market. It was growing. There was agents that were not getting business because it became a seller's market, is what they called it back then. And agents were like, I hate this market. And I'm like, how can you hate this market? It's a listing market. Listings are, you know, where it's at and this and that. And I just read the MREA. So I was thinking being a listing agent was the best thing. It still is, in my opinion. In 2008, between 2008 in 2012, I knew of people who got into the REO market and the short sale market, and they were actually driving Lamborghinis. I know of an agent and a lender that were driving Lamborghinis. They were brothers. And then when everything moved, 2016, the short sales went away and the REOs went away. They are not in the business anymore. They're gone. They do not have Lamborghinis. They tried to pivot to some other business besides real estate. I do not think that worked out. But every market has a story like that, to where people will just say, I don't want to adapt, I don't want to change, and they get out of the market, or their business just goes to where they don't want to go find new cheese. And I feel like, in my opinion, for real estate, you have to constantly be looking for new cheese. But with that being said, in every one of these markets, there is one thing that is undefeated. Does anybody know what that is? How many people we have on the call right now? 9. Tracy, do you want to know do you know which one is undefeated or no?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know which character you are, or which one do you think you are?
I don't, because I had an agent call me that returned my call from a text this morning at 8:30 in the morning.
No
Sorry.
problem. No, that's the best excuse that you could have. Like, I can't even argue with that one.
It's not an excuse, I swear.
I know, no, I believe it, because I mean, didn't they like text you this morning, like super early?
No, I texted them about a showing appointment I'm trying to get, and of course he called right when the video was playing, so.
No, totally get it, totally get it. So, the undefeated thing in all of this stuff is the one thing that most people are afraid of, and that is sphere of influence. Your SOI. Every one of these, if you have worked your sphere of influence the right way, you have survived every one of these. And I know of agents right now that are selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate, that this is their foundation, this is their base. And they kept that. And what they did is that the story with real estate is that it's a cyclical market, to where it goes up and it comes down, it goes up and it comes down. And this is kind of the way the market goes. Like, this is what people would consider a good market, and this would be a bad market. So the good market is like, high prices, sellers market, a lot of sellers. The bad market is REO, short sale, high interest rates, right? But the thing with these markets is that agents make millions of dollars here, and agents can make millions of dollars here. So if agents can make millions of dollars in a good and bad market, like, why is it even a good or bad market? Isn't it just the market? And I tell people, the reason real estate agents that are massively successful in all markets, it's because they don't go up and down, it goes side to side. And this is your base, and this is your SOI right here. This is your SOI that goes right up the middle, and this is like a good market. This is a bad market. This is a good market. So this is like REO. This is sellers right here. And so you stay on your main path, but when this happens, you pivot a little bit, and you pivot a little bit, and you pivot a little bit, and you add to what's already working to make your business grow even more. Richard Schulman, the guy that's been here and that's spoken to our office a number of times, that's how he plays his business. Like, he doesn't go all in on REO. He does not go all in on short sale. Like, he does not do that. He has a base, and he focuses on the base. A lot of us, when things go sideways for us, we do what they were talking about on the book, which is overthinking. We try to overthink everything, and it's it's hard. It's easy to mess up your business when you want to overthink. And the reason I think Scurry is one of the best characters in this book is because of the speed aspect of it. We all have an inherent ability to be afraid to make change and to do things. So what ends up happening is, being afraid, we end up waiting to make decisions. You don't need time to make a decision. You need information to make decisions. So you need to figure out where is the most information that you can get, and then make the decisions as quickly as possible, because trying to evade failure is actually going to create more failure in the long run. What you want to do is you want to make the decisions quickly, and then figure out, is this going to work, and then when it's not going to work, speed to the next decision. And the ability to make faster decisions is actually a fulcrum for success. So moving from decision to decision very quickly to figure out what's going to work in your business, and understanding that the base of your business is your sphere of influence. And all of the things that are out there. So besides sphere of influence, there's door knocking, there's online leads, there are expireds, there's circle prospecting, there's door dropping, there's NODs, notice of defaults, foreclosures. So all of these, the goal is to take all of those and put them in your sphere of influence. That's your goal. You want to find people, get them to know you, like you, and trust you, to do business with you, and then they automatically go in your sphere of influence. But the thing is you already have a sphere of influence. If you do not think you have a sphere of influence, message me. I will send you the sphere of influence video that I did, so you can see that. Because instead of trying to go from the outer layers, this is the outer layers, and spiral your way in, you want to start in the middle and spiral your way out, because this, in the center of your sphere of influence, is where all your business is. Those are all the people that already know you, already like you, already trust you. Or if you go further out, like they know of you, they kind of like you, they're not sure, and you just have to talk to them a little bit more, instead of going to what all of these people would be considered strangers. This is the roughest way to start your business or to go after business if you want faster business. So, fear of change. And right now, there's a lot of fear of change going on right now. This Wednesday at our team meeting, we're going to be doing conversations on the market and where the market is at. So what are your thoughts? Anybody online have thoughts or questions? I would love to hear them. Tracy, can you save me?
I don't have any questions. What would you like me to ask?
Well, what do you think of this? What do you think of the part of the video you did see and what I'm saying here? Would you add anything to it, or would you push back on me on something?
No, I wouldn't push back on anything. I just think, as you and I have discussed before, you have to do triple the amount of work that you were doing before to get results that you used to get. And the consistency is the most important piece of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go over one more thing and then we're going to wrap up the call. So the thing that I think is probably the biggest problem in the real estate world right now is you have the, I call this the scale of success. And the way this works is, I'm not sure if everybody on Zoom can see this, but the way this works is you start out here, and this is all the things that you know and are excited about. Like, this is you just getting into real estate. You're like super excited. And what happens is that you get super excited, you decide to join a brokerage, you get your license, and then as you get your license, you get hit in the face with all of this information. You have to join the board, you have to learn contracts, you have to talk to people, you have to learn people. And as you start to go down, you realize right here, it's way harder than you thought. And then you're like, holy crap, this is costing me more time. This is costing me a little bit more money. This is not what I thought it would be, and it's way harder than I thought. And then what happens is you get down here, what's called the Valley of Despair. Despair. I have a Las Vegas education, so I don't know how to spell despair. Valley of Despair, we're gonna go with VD. So you get down here and you're like, this sucks, I'm not happy, this is way harder than I thought it was, and I'm frustrated and I don't know what to do. The thing is that being with Keller Williams is a lot better than a lot of other offices because they have the amount of training that they have. And if you can be consistent in showing up and focused on the things that we teach you, like the sphere of influence and, you know, the consistency of your schedule and all these different things, is that if you keep pushing forward, this is where most people will quit, or they'll go to a different office, or they'll try to change something because they're afraid and they're just afraid at this point. They're not sure what to do. And they think like changing an environment to another company is going to change the result. And it typically doesn't, because what did one of my mentors say to me? They said the grass is green on the other side because there's crap over there too. And that's what makes the grass green. So everybody's got crap on their side. But if you're consistent and you don't give up, what happens is that you start to learn new things and you start to realize this is really hard. And then you get a result. You get something, like let's say you get a lease, and you make a little bit of money. You take that money, you put it back into your business, and then you keep pushing forward and you never quit. You keep showing up. And then what happens is it gets to the point to where you are successful and you were doing amazing things, but it was way, way, way harder than you ever thought it could be. That is, but what happens is that you get down here and you go back up here. I forgot that part. You get down here, you get frustrated, and then you change careers, you change offices, and then that puts you right back up here. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to do a different job. I'm going to go recruit people, and recruiting people will be my new thing. You go up here, oh, it's really hard, it's really hard, it's really hard, oh, that sucks. And if you look at working out, this is the same thing with diets. So if you start a diet, it's okay, it's amazing, it's amazing, it's amazing. Oh, this is really hard. I have to track what I eat. I have to not eat certain things. Oh my God, this sucks. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna try a different diet. And then it's basically this death loop that everybody seems to stay in. But if you stay here and you learn and you're patient, it goes up to where you have success in the end. I hope that made sense. I think I've explained it better in the past, but that's basically what it is. I would recommend that everybody go and go get the book, Who Moved My Cheese? It's a super small book. It's a really good read. There's a lot more detail in it than what the video explained. The video actually did an amazing way of explaining it. But that's the book that I would go get, and I would recommend everybody go read that as soon as possible, because where we're at today with the market, it's going to be different next year, and it's going to be different the year after that, and things are going to change, and you have to know how to go find your cheese and whatever your cheese decides to be. Do you have any questions before we wrap everything up? Questions going once? Questions going twice? All right, guys, thank you so much for coming. Make sure you make it to the team meeting on Wednesday. We're going to have a lot of information and a lot of really cool stuff. So I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and I will talk to you later.
There are going to be days where you do not feel like doing anything. Those days are going to be there no matter what path you take.
We have two voices in our mind. There's that one voice. It's that soft motherfucker. That soft motherfucking voice that says, sleep the fuck in. It's okay.
You can take the day off, saying you don't need to go hard.
It's that coddling voice. You want to be hugged and nurtured and all that shit.
That voice, that nagging voice of weakness, the one that tells you to back off, to simmer down, to take it easy. When you hear that voice, tell it no. Tell it to sit down and be quiet.
Suppress that voice. You've got another voice in your head that's asking you a question. It's asking you, what could you be? What could you be? What could you be if you worked as hard as you could? What could you be if you imposed real discipline in your life? What could you be?
Because that pain that you are feeling is the test.
This is a test. This is the day I'm going to find out if my goals really are my goals.
Michael Jordan, they call it the flu game. He still scored more than the average dude with the flu. Even when you got the flu and you playing other champions, you still score more than they score because you've learned how to dominate. And you need that same mentality.
I'm talking about looking yourself in the mirror, looking yourself in the eye, and saying, I'm going to dominate today better than any other day. Learn how to get excited when that feeling creeps in of I don't want to do it. And when those test days become something that you live for, something you look forward to, now you're talking about a whole different level of mindset. You're talking about an unstoppable force of nature that cannot be f***ed with.
Mental toughness is the ability to resist, to manage, overcome doubt, overcome worries, overcome concerns, overcome circumstances that prevent most people from succeeding or performing under pressure. Every human being that is not successful versus every human being that's successful, the only difference between them is mental toughness. One group, when they come up against trials and tribulations, they shrink. One group of people, when they come up against a recession, they shrink. Weak-minded people, they buckle, they complain, they look for every excuse. But mentally tough people, we saw the storm and we pull on our surfboard and we begin to surf on the waves that drown most people. You have to understand that your greatest commodity, not your shoes, not your car, not your clothes, it's your mind. Your mind is the most important thing you have, and you gotta control it. I don't care what's happening, you have to control it. When you leave, what you fighting for? What's your legacy? What you gonna do? You say you a champ, but do you practice like a champ? You say you a champ, do you fight like a champ? You say you a champ, do you have the mentality of a champ? Champions keep going when they don't have anything left in their tank. When they don't have no more. When it's over. When they're tired. When they're frustrated. When they're ready to give up. When they spent their last dime. That's when they get started. It's when you have nothing left. It's when you depleted all your money. When all your energy gone. That's when it's showtime. When you find the way out of no way. When you find breath that you don't have. When you find energy that did not exist. When you want this thing as bad as you want to breathe. That's when you find a way.
Thank you guys for coming. You have a great day.